The American shad is the largest and most prized species of herring, famously known as the founding fish. Migrate from the ocean to freshwater rivers every spring to spawn, playing a vital ecological role and serving as a crucial historical food source. And there you can see shad and herring, the difference. Look at this American shad swimming and feeding in the Delaware River here, which is next to where I grew up. And the Latin name is most delicious or most savory fish. Yeah, so here's the life cycle of it over here, breeding and heritage. And look at these proud shad fishermen. And there's the bi-state shad fishing contest, Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Look at this shad fest. This one's in Lambertville, up the Delaware River from where I grew up. Yeah, an ancient Native American staple. The Lenape relied on this, the spring shad runs for thousands of years, often cooking them over an open fire or wood planks. You can see spearing them and catching them. The founding fish. Shad sustained early colonists and famously fed supposedly starving Revolutionary War troops, earning it deep cultural roots. George Washington was a commercial shad fisherman and valued the species heavily. And here you can see them with his fishing pole and some shad. He ran one of the most successful and profitable commercial fisheries in the American colonies on the Potomac River. He heavily relied on massive seasonal catches of American shad and herring, which were salted, barreled, and exported globally. So he was in the fishing business. The operation, enslaved workers operated 3 different fisheries along the estate, using 450-foot nets to pull in upwards of 1.5 million fish in a single spring season. The catch was salted. You can see it here, the salting barn here. And barreled to feed the enslaved populations at Mount Vernon. A ration of, they said, 5 ounces per person per day. That doesn't sound like a lot, does it? With the vast majority exported to sugar plantations in the West Indies. So he was like one of the most successful businessmen in the whole colonies. He grew up eating shad and could deal with the bones. However, the bones of shad do present a problem for those just learning about this delicious fish. How do you deal with 769 bones, most of them which are small Y-shaped, which are found in shad, and most fish fillets would be bone-free. They can be deboned, oddly termed boning, but removal of these Y bones from shad is a real skill. So deboning a shad is famously difficult, but the most popular is gashing. You can see the gashes here. Making the cuts through the meat before frying, which softens the bones. Grinding the meat for fish cakes, of course, or using a slow cooking method to dissolve the little tiny bones altogether. He loved to eat shad. From Philadelphia, we find him writing to his manager about a fish merchant's offer. Quote, "I am at this moment paying 6 shillings apiece for every shad that I buy. Back at Mount Vernon, he usually tried to get 12 shillings for every 100 shad he sold. In Philadelphia, he was buying shad prepared for the table, and 6 shillings would be worth approximately $30. He was frugal, and his spending such a sum shows his acclaim for the fish." So removing obsolete dams is the most effective way to restore American shad runs, which were really dwindling. Dams block their spawning routes. Removing them opens hundreds of miles of historic oxygen, and this is before and after they've removed it, so you can see that they can move upstream. These fish, shad, bring essential marine derive nutrients into freshwater river systems. Many adult shad die after spawning, providing important nourishment to the freshwater ecosystem. And in the ocean, they're an important food source for seals and porpoises and others, sharks. Look at this. Shad planking is a cooking technique where shad are slowly baked on wooden planks before a bonfire, and this helps to dissolve and eliminate the bone problem. Shad plankings were big events along the Potomac as early as 120 years ago. Look at this crowd showing up and having their photograph taken during these shad planking feasts and gatherings. So they serve a notable symbolic role in regional politics and well. A shad bake is a culinary tradition found up and down the East Coast, often being large community events. In every gubernatorial election, would-be candidates, lobbyists, campaign workers, and reporters gather in the town of Wakefield, Virginia. You can see it here for the annual shad planking event. Things go also on in Connecticut and New Hope, Pennsylvania, Shad Festival. And you can see, some of them down in North Carolina. Salem County, New Jersey Attorney Bar Association has held an annual shad dinner every spring since the 40s. Look, this is the Lambertville Shad Festival for 2026. Oh, and here's another way of doing it. The shad planking, actually, they skin the shad and they nail it to these boards. You can see them here. And then they cook them on these open fires. So here's this, we were talking about Washington with all his enslaved people using these huge nets. You can see, look at 3 or 4 to haul in. A huge effort, lots of people involved. This is more about the Lambertville fishery. It's the last commercial shad fishery on the non-tidal river, established in 1888. So you can see the spring migration, the shad leaving the ocean, and they come up into these rivers. Here's the Chesapeake Bay, and off of this goes the Potomac River, and the Delaware River, huge shad run, Connecticut on the way up. And then the summer feeding, spring migration, and the autumn migration. The Haddam, Connecticut Shad Museum, the only museum in the U.S. completely dedicated to the history of shad fishing. So we honor and respect and call attention to organizations like this, museums, communities that are preserving their food history, and this is certainly one of them. And they have actually lots of artifacts associated with this. Look at this old ad for Connecticut. Excellent shad, John Watson, near the ferry. Also some other ads. So they have live demonstrations of deboning, planking, and net repair, and all that goes on at the Haddam Shad Museum. Good for them. Shad, by the way, is Connecticut's state fish. So history and restoration of American shad on the Potomac River. You can see some of the old-time photos. Here's a good picture. This is a wonderful presentation that I'm just going to go through quickly, but if you want to see the whole thing and the talk, potomacriver.org, there it is. So let's just go through a couple of these slides. Yeah, the commercial river, talking about this important fish. Here's some cartoons showing the way it was. Look at this. And this is a very clever way of hauling in the nets. See, and the horses would pull this wheel and it would crank it up. Otherwise, folks are just back in the water. Here's the black watermen. There's an old photograph showing this. Here they are again. Here's the women ready to process the shad. This is Thomas Aiken's painting on the shad fishing in Gloucester, Delaware. A lovely atmospheric view of the same thing. And then, of course, preparing shad and other herring were big industries as well, employed lots of people. They were smoked. You can see these smokehouses. This is pretty dramatic flow of smoke. And then they were smoked and then salted in barrels. So to preserve, and now that they've gotten rid of many of the dams and the rivers are running free, they are developing fertilized eggs in these national fish hatcheries, in these big tanks here. And the eggs hatch in about 4 to 5 days and then swim into a larger blue holding tank. And then they take these tanks out and they release the spawn of the shad into these streams. And then, of course, they're going to swim down to the ocean and live out there, and then are going to come back to the spawning grounds. So, yeah, 48 million shad fry were stocked into the Rappahannock River, 5 million into the Potomac. Replacement stocking, it's called. And here's a lot of young people involved in this whole project. Lots of school kids from the Washington area helped release 800,000 shad that they had hatched in their classrooms. What a great project. Here's this guy catching one of the first shad that had come back up. And yeah, but it's not an end of the story. The journey is long. Potomac shad population will never fully recover until the shad populations of other rivers also recover. So you gotta recover all of these rivers, not just some of these. Now look at this. This just shows the increase in all of this effort. So look at the number of shad captured in the Potomac River on the Maryland shore. That has increased almost. Look at this. It was completely flat in the 1980s when they still had all these impediments to the shad runs. And look at this. This is just a wonderful image of an important food source for colonial Americans. This is William Rainey painting showing the effort. Love that. So, American shad, very important fish. I learned a lot by researching this. Don't have actually any artifacts associated with the shad, but always happy to just enjoy learning all these things. We've been, by the way, can lift this up, showing artifacts from our food collection about all sorts of seafood. And we've done, I don't know, maybe 20 different shows about seafood heritage. And if you like these shows, you can subscribe. It's free on Amazon. You can tell your friends about our show. You can spread the word that this whole collection, not just seafood, but all of our collections are available for, we're trying to find a permanent home for all of this. And leave us some messages. Always happy to hear from you. So yeah, shad, super important subject, and I'm glad, happy to share it with what I'm learning about it. See you again.